first ever live webinar with System 1357. So it's great to see everyone jumping in and starting to sign in. We'll give everyone a few seconds to come on. But I'll tell you, our 4-hour webinar though, I think I'll need a haircut by the time it's finished. It's a long webinar, but the whole idea was people come along for the bits and pieces they want to watch, whether it's the sales or the marketing or the leadership or the business development, or all four, so people can do whatever they want. So, but yeah, 4 hours. I was thinking, oh gee, I'll probably need a haircut by the end of that. It's going to be that long. So we'll get started. So this is our first System 1357, which was a concept a year ago, System 1357. It's certainly grown a lot. I'm very proud that the partners, we've all come together and we've decided to create this webinar to kick off the year with 21 tips for 21. So well done to all the System 1357 partners. That's awesome. As I said, there is 4 sessions with 3 speakers at each session, which is awesome. Basically what we're going to do is 30 minutes on the key subject, a bit of Q&A at the end, and then we're going to wrap up each session and kickstart the next one with exactly the same Zoom details. It gives us a chance to refresh, regroup, and re-record each session so they can go back as replays individually rather than one big long webinar. So that's how we've designed today. So on the panel today, the first thing we're doing is we're going to talk about marketing, which is like the first stage, if you want to call it, probably to most people's sales process is their marketing. And even though marketing can also be part of your follow-up plan, it's certainly part of, where things seem to start nowadays. And there's a big difference between marketing and sales. So sales is the next one we're talking about. But right now we're into the marketing. We've got 3 experts from around the world. We have 2 Australians and 1 Canadian. So I'll start with Rob. He's the Canadian. So Rob's a video producing expert. He's over in Canada, and I've been following Rob for a long time. So he's got a lot of good content. A little bit of a giveaway with the green screen in the background and the fancy microphones. So we can all tell what Rob's into. So Cath's actually from around where I live, which is Coffs Harbour. I've known Cath now for a few years. She's an SEO website expert into that marketing, also has a podcast. And he's going to add a lot of value to today. And Anthony, once again, been following for a long time now, is almost turning into a YouTube expert as well as a marketing expert. So it's going to be interesting to hear what everyone's going to talk about today. So as far as the three tips goes, the tips from you guys, from you 3, who wants to start first? Who would like to share their first tip or 2 tips?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start with, marketing itself is about getting the right kind of leads, right? And it can be really intimidating. There's so much work to do with marketing. And I think that really in business, a lot of us are very good at creating content, creating stuff. And some people are better at building an audience. And that combination, not a lot of people got both, right? So that's why I've started, especially within small business, to focus on YouTube, because it's already got a ready-made audience. When people think about YouTube, they usually think about the big channels, the entertainment channels, the pranks, the jokes, the comedy, and that sort of thing. But 97% of searches on YouTube are questions. How do I make an omelette? How do I record a video? By the way, everybody on this, not just on the panel, but everybody on this, all of the attendees, you're already doing video. If you ever go on Zoom, you do video. So just get over this fact that you can't do video. You're already doing it.
I agree.
My big thing, my big advice here, and I've really only just started my YouTube journey the last few months. I've had a channel for many years, but it really only just took off at the beginning of the pandemic in about March. And I've grown my channel up to 2,300 subscribers. And the big thing is that if you are the answer to something that people are searching for, so something that people are searching for, they're not necessarily, like if you've got a sore tooth, for example, people are not going to be searching for, where's the best root canal surgery, okay? They're searching for, what do I do about a sore tooth? What can I do? What can I take? Do I need to see a dentist? Can I put up with it? What are they searching for? What's their pain? that they're searching for. And that's where YouTube itself can come in. Even if you never go on camera yourself, you can answer a lot of questions. So that's
I like that as well, Anthony. Like, just from me, from an SEO perspective, like everything you said, that really resonated from an SEO point of view. And what we think of a lot is that, you know, SEO is Google, which is right to a degree, but YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world, as you would know. So what we actually see is, even in Google results, answers to questions like the tooth thing, which brought up because I happen to be going to a dentist after this. Even that, YouTube videos are showing up now in Google's response. So I know, like, when I'm building a website and I might be stuck needing a bit of code, I know I can Google it, and someone on YouTube would have had that issue and shown me how to fix it and things like that. So I don't think YouTube can be underestimated, as you said, for the answering questions side of it. It's not just for entertainment. People are going there.
And it's a really big thing too. Like, I mean, my biggest best video has got terrible lighting, even worse than what I've got at the moment. It's got very poor editing. It goes for 90 seconds. And it's had 168,000 views. And you know what the question is how do I turn off my camera on Zoom?
Yeah, right.
And but because that's addressing a very emotional question, how do I hide myself? How do I hide my face? That's some of the things people are searching for. How do I not show my face? Then I'm giving a technical answer to actually an emotional question, right? And that's what people are searching for. Yeah. So YouTube search can be a very big help with your marketing because it's a kind of a ready-made audience. And I believe there's 500 hours of content going up every minute on YouTube. So you don't have to be one of the big shots. Okay. Yeah. It's very, very interesting journey. Yeah. So that's my first tip. Thank you, Cath, for your contribution. We're going to move on to somebody else. Rob, would you?
Well, I'm with you. I'm following what you're doing on YouTube, and I'm trying to build up my own channel now as well. And I'm cruising along. I've crossed the 100 subscriber mark, and I've got work to do yet. But just to pick up on your point about sort of reverse engineering, trying to find out what people are looking for, it really is about putting the audience first. And when I look at that from the perspective of what we're putting into video content itself, one of the things I wanted to mention today was the use of images. But I also wanted to talk about speaking to time. And when I talk about speaking to time, I'm looking at some of the parameters around different social platforms where there is a time constraint. And YouTube doesn't have that, but something like Instagram, for example, does, right? Where on the main Instagram page, you've got a 60-second limit. And actually, YouTube now has a feature called Shorts, which has a 60-second limit as well. So, how do you get out what you're trying to get out in such a short frame of time and answer those questions that people are looking for very quickly? And there is a method to the madness, right? And when we look at where I come from, my background is broadcast journalism. And in journalism in general, there is a technique in writing anyway called the inverted pyramid writing style. And essentially what we're doing is we're throwing out the window all of the ideas of storytelling that we were taught growing up, where it's sort of building, right? It's once upon a time on a dark and stormy night, then the plot thickens, and at the end there's a big, dramatic climax of some kind. And we're flipping that on end, and we're putting the big news up front at the top. And then we're supporting that with some details, and then having some kind of call to action at the end. So we're addressing right away what it is people are asking, right? The question they're asking, what they might be searching for. And then in the middle part, that supporting detail can be what, in terms of System 1357, might be the FAB, right? The features and the advantages and the benefits, and then follow up with the call to action. And if we consider most of us speak between 120 and 150 words per minute, we know we've got to squeeze that all into that 60 seconds. And so, it can be helpful to even write a script. And I don't know if people can see that, but, there it is in a triangle.
Right. So intro and lead message, 20 words. But what if you're like me and we can speak at 300 words a minute?
Well, then you adjust accordingly. If you're an auctioneer and you speak that way, then cram in what you can for sure, but make sure the audience can understand. And
the point of the images, I think, is very, very interesting, because it's that pattern interrupt. It's that
it is.
I thought we were heading along this, and then all of a sudden, you see this all of the time on YouTube, and it doesn't necessarily need to be entertaining. It could be just a close-up all of a sudden and then moving back out again. And one thing, just to tie in with what Cath said before about the SEO and what you've just said, Rob, about especially with video, is that with SEO, as I understand on Google, it's sometimes it's a very long journey, right? It could be several months or so. But on YouTube, you can get very fast results, certainly within about 10 days, but sometimes within about 2 days, you can know, because you know what people are searching for. Here's a little exercise people could do right now, if you want, or after, is you go onto YouTube yourself and just type in how to choose and then hit space. And then you'll find a whole lot of series of suggested topics and the things. How do I choose? And so that really is that inverted pyramid. Can you just show that again, please, Rob?
Yeah. I printed it nice and large, so the triangle goes off the page at the top, but
yeah.
And what I like about this inverted pyramid as well is it actually talks to what Google's doing. Obviously, we're talking about YouTube and video, but Google is seeing the change to video and voice search and things like that. And really what that first 20 words is your hook. And a lot of the time now, Google, position 1 isn't the aim anymore, because there's so many different things. There's the local pack, which is the map listing. There's what's called featured snippets, which basically is a box giving you the answer. And if you use, I guess, Rob's formula for videos, if you do a similar thing in your writing or on your website, you have more of the chance of getting featured snippets in Google and from an SEO perspective. So actually what we're seeing is, yes, the shift is to video and voice and all that kind of stuff, but Google's evolving with it, that if you're starting to feed your information through from your website or your YouTube channel or whatever in that way, it's recognizing it and rewarding those places that do that.
So website's still important, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, I don't know if you want to lead on, that's really my first tip. And this is going really back to basis, but from 2021 and beyond, I really do think that all businesses and entrepreneurs still need a website. So we would have all seen the very high profile case of someone losing their Twitter account recently. There's also, there's always, you hear stories of people losing the ability to their shop on Facebook and things like that. So I really do think, like what the guys have talked about, you need to be where your audience is, and YouTube is the second biggest channel. People are listening to podcasts via iTunes and things like that. But I still really believe that at the end of the day, your website is the only space for your brand that you own. So there's a business coach that I heard speak once, and he said, that's the only racetrack that you own. Everything else, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever it might be, there's a new one, Clubhouse now, which supports this whole voice, because it's just people chatting almost like this in a social platform. I think they all have their place, and they're all a place you can market to, but having that central website where you can house your videos or link out to them, embed them, I still think that there's a really good point for doing that now and forevermore, because what you can do is, by having a website, you can control the narrative to a degree in the Google search results. A lot of search these days, it's very hard to get search for what you do, say, plumber in Sydney or business coach in Sydney or video producer in Canada or whatever it might be. It's a lot harder these days because so many people are investing a lot of money to do that. But what people are moving more towards to is branded search. So people have come to this webinar and they want to know more about Anthony, or they want to know more about Scotty. So if you can own the narrative of that first page of Google and that's your website, then I still think there's a really important need for that. I'll just give you an example. A copywriter friend of mine, when you type in her name, the first thing that came up, because she didn't have a website, she was just starting out, was her leaving a really bad review on Facebook for some brand. So you don't want that, even though it was probably justified because it's probably like a telco or something she was having a go at, but it was probably but you just don't want that to be the first thing people see about you. And if you do have a website and YouTube to a degree, and your LinkedIn profile is going to come up as well, having a really strong website can help you to control the narrative around your personal brand. And that's why I think it will never go out of fashion, even though we have all these other social channels.
Can I just do a tiny bit? That was great, Cath. I just want to do a tiny mention of housekeeping here, which is that there is the chat. We're not really keeping an eye. Well, we're keeping an eye on the chat, but we're focused as a panelist. We're focused on the conversation, but we're not ignoring you. But we are, and there is a Q&A button on the bottom of, if you're on a laptop, there's a Q&A button. So that's where you ask questions. Don't ask them in the chat. And after we go through our next 3 tips, we'll have some time for questions and answers. And so you can start asking those questions now if you want on that Q&A button. Okay.
Good to have an expert along. So rolling into your second one there, Anthony. So your first one was about your YouTube, and 97% of searches are done by questions, which was excellent. What's your second one?
So the second one is really that I'm trying to, I suppose it really continues on from that whole idea that to try and stop thinking of yourself that you're not going to win an Oscar. Okay. And once I said that to myself one time, that I was trying to aim for a Super Bowl ad standard video, and I realized I was not getting there. Once I actually got to that, and I realized I was not going to win an Oscar, and it's true, I haven't yet. Then once I actually got to that, I suddenly just became super confident on video, and that's super productive as well. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you include YouTube in the mix, even if you never monetize, you've got to get 1,000 subscribers to monetize, and your videos are going to be watched for 4,000 hours, which seems like a lot. But if you include YouTube in the mix without it necessarily being even a source of income directly, then here's what you can do. You can create a video that you never even, maybe hardly anybody's going to see it, but you can link to that video on your website, like Cath was just saying. You could have a blog post about it with the link to the video. I've got a client who is in real estate, and he says, look, in real estate, you've got to be an octopus. You just got to have your marketing out there everywhere. You got to go on Instagram, and you got to go on Facebook. And I said, yeah, but all of that is social media. And the problem with that is that it's all going to sort of disappear in a week, right? YouTube is evergreen content. I've got a video out there, the one that I mentioned before, with 168,000 views. That's getting 1,000 views a day. That's 10 months old. And it's getting 1,000 views a day now. So that's the idea here, is that you're creating a video and basically using YouTube as somewhere to store it. And then when you have a LinkedIn conversation or somebody comes to your website, you say, listen, I've actually got a video about that specific question. It's not a big marketing video, but it's a specific question that you asked. Everybody asks me that. So this real estate agent, I said, look, people are asking, what questions are they asking? He said, well, let's make some short videos about that rather than just listing, this house is available for sale. And so that is really, really valuable content that you can then share, and you don't have to be a media superstar, like Rob is.
Well, I haven't won an Oscar yet either, but And I do try, but they don't seem to notice me on YouTube.
It's only
or any
because
of
the
my other
borders are closed. That's all. Yeah.
That could be it. That could be it for sure. But to your point about that instant sort of comfort and confidence that you had, it really is about recognizing that you don't have to perform like an actor or I'll say a news anchor sometimes, because that's where I came from. That's not what it's about, right? This is about relatability, especially in the social media realm, where people are looking for like-minded people, other people who are relatable, who might be able to solve their problem. And I think that's part of why, Anthony, your video on Zoom, the profile picture on Zoom does so well, because it is very natural, right? When you watch it, it's just you giving the answer. It's not scripted. It's, as you say, it's not well lit. It's not.
Oh, I get the number of people who comment on how many times I blink. Like, get over it. I don't care. I've never even noticed that I blink. I don't care, but it's, it really is the relatability. And sometimes, like, you don't want to go to Michael Phelps to learn how to swim. Okay. Right. You'd rather go to somebody who like a few months ago was scared to dip their toes in the baby pool, and they've made it, and they're just a bit ahead of you. And and then you can sort of go. And so that really is, especially for small business, that's a huge advantage of doing it that way. It's very natural. It's just like a Zoom call.
So, and one of the things that you do as well in your videos, and I try to do it on YouTube as well, and in some of the training videos I put together, is we try to actually show the process. Yeah. So you do screenshots, or you actually have things happening on screen as you're telling the story. And that's the other point I wanted to make today was, not just telling a story, because we see a lot of talking heads on a lot of different platforms, and it's very difficult to avoid that, quite frankly. That's just part of how this all works. But we have a huge opportunity to be able to also show our story with video. So whereas, on a podcast or on a radio program, it's all audio, and you really do have to enhance your vocals to really tell the story and paint a picture for people to imagine. On video, you've got an opportunity to use things to your advantage to help to show that story. So, I tell people, don't worry about trying to be like a news anchor, but one thing I do take from news programming that I try to bring over into the social platforms is this idea of a news package, where if you consider how reporters tell a story or show a story, there's 2 or 3 minutes where they're maybe introducing what happened today. They're talking a little bit. They maybe have somebody else come in with a sound bite and an expert or what have you, and talk a little bit. And meanwhile, they're showing images all the way through. And there's 2 ways they do it. They're either in shot, where they're demonstrating something, or they're showing something physically, or there's something in the background, or it's on what we call B-roll, right, where they're still talking, telling the story, but it's only the image that we see. And so they're showing the story in that way. This is something very few people are doing on any social media platform at all. Some of the bigger names on YouTube, you do see some of it because maybe they're a little more invested in their production value. But you don't have to get really high end with this and really technical. You can simply use your smartphone and be aware of your surroundings and think about, is this helping me or is this hurting me when I'm trying to add to the story or to help carry the load of the story? And so it could be as simple as, I did a video a couple of weeks back where I was talking about how, it was snowing. I was out in a snowstorm. And because a large portion of my audience was from the southern United States, or even from parts of Australia, people watched because it was like, wow, it's snowing like crazy and we don't see this, right? So they paid attention. And so if you're mindful,
that what that white stuff was, I couldn't.
Exactly. That's what the white stuff is here. And so if you can be mindful of who is your audience and what would they be interested in, and how can I show them the story I'm trying to tell, as well as tell that story effectively, that can be tremendously powerful, because very few people are creating content on a lot of these platforms, let alone video content. And then when you look at all the talking heads, it's pretty easy to see that you can with a little bit of effort, get yourself a step above the rest pretty easily.
Yeah, and I think that talks a bit to my last point too as well, Rob. Like, I like how you both spoke about, like, if you're talking people through something, we're all different learners. Some of us will learn by you talking me through it step by step. Some of us will learn from the visuals of being shown how it works. So I think the imagery, that talks to my final point about what I think is vital in 2021 and beyond, is when we're creating any content, is thinking about accessibility and inclusivity. Like 2020 really spotlighted this a lot. A lot of people, or Google has introduced image search now. You can, instead of typing a word in, you can put a picture in, and it's very in the infant stages, and then it'll come up and tell you what that product is or whatever it is, or say it's a CD cover, it'll give you the information. So imagery, and even Google's starting to see that, you know, people learn differently. So I would say that when you're doing your YouTube videos and things, and it is extra work, but it's going to become the norm in this decade, in my opinion, is, you know, including those subtitles or those transcripts. When I was my kids are a bit older now, but when I was a young mum, I was up at 2 a.m., you know, feeding the kids, and I was watching videos, but I didn't want it with sound. So having those subtitles was important for me, as it's important for people who are hearing impaired and things like that. So I really do think, yeah, having alt text on your image descriptions, having a dedicated image sitemap, looking to use imagery on your videos, make it top quality, even going way back to your website, look to add an accessibility widget to your website, which will add, people can just click a button to get like a dyslexia font, or they can have a screen reader and things like that. So I really do think, yeah, that accessibility side of it, video helps to do that for the people that, like my husband, him sitting and reading 1,000-word blog will never happen, but he'll watch YouTube videos all day. So I do think, yeah, accessibility and inclusivity in terms of, you know, all the political things that have happened in the past year or two. I do think people are looking for brands to represent the more diverse community, and also think when you're putting panels together, you know, we've got a diverse range of ages and sexes and things like this, people from different countries. That's what people are looking for in your marketing. So yeah, accessibility, inclusivity, I do think that video and podcasts and things lean towards that quite a lot. So that would be my final tip.
Well, there's actually a real big spin-off from what you just said, Cath, especially around the subtitles. I do have a video on my YouTube channel of a little bit more efficient way of creating subtitles, because YouTube for short or even for longer videos creates subtitles, but they do really need to be tidied up. I know somebody who's profoundly deaf,
too much.
but I've got a video showing how I actually tidy them up. Without using, anyway, so there's a video there. But what you can then do is, because you've recorded, see, some people are better at talking, some people are better at writing. When you've actually recorded that video, if you've created a video and you've got the subtitles, those subtitles themselves, you can then download them, use them as a blog post or parts of a blog post, or and you can also take snippets of that if you want to share that on social media. So there's a lot of different options here.
Repurpose.
Yeah. And some questions coming in, which is great.
Mark Hansel just said there's a widget to increase the text size. So yeah, there is one. If you've got a website on like WordPress, Shopify, Wix, Weebly, which are the main ones, Joomla, there's one called userway.org. There's a free version, and if you go to my website, you can see it, or there's a paid one which adds screen reader, and it's a really like 5-minute simple thing to do to increase the accessibility on your site. So yeah, it's userway.org.
Yeah.
And on social, just your point, Cath, about the captions too. The last stat I saw for Facebook anyway was more than 80% of people are watching social video on silent. So those captions, those subtitles, really are critical if you want to help somebody stop the scroll, right, and get them interested in what's going by on their screen.
And I just see a note from Ben Baker. Hope you don't mind us sharing it, Ben, that our latest book was completely written from YouTube video interviews. And by the way, that could be from a Zoom. Okay, so you do a Zoom, you can upload. I've got another video about how to do that. Upload that to your YouTube channel, the recording, and then you create the subtitles. So it's not you having to stand in front of the camera and make it look like it's a big, TV show, right? It will be okay if we moved on to the questions.
I was about to say, what we might do is quickly recap on your 2 tips.
Okay.
Answer the questions before we get distracted with the questions, because they're really good questions. So we'll just do a helicopter view of the 2 tips each. So that way, for the people that were taking notes, know exactly what your headings were for your 2 tips, because they were all good. And then we'll do the Q&A. So who went first? Anthony did. So what were your 2 tips?
Okay. So the look for the search. And 97% of traffic on YouTube is questions. Search is questions. So answer the questions.
Perfect.
And the second one is just create some evergreen content, even if you don't become a YouTube big shot like Rob and me,
So what were yours, Rob?
So 2 ways to raise your social video game, essentially, right? One is speaking to time, because we do have time parameters on some platforms. So the inverted pyramid style, where if you speak between 120 and 150 words per minute, you can squeeze your message into 60 seconds, grab them with the hook, get your fab in the middle, and a call to action at the end. And then the other one is the use of images, right? And really putting that to work for you to help carry the load of your message in any social video, because most people aren't doing it. So it's a way to step it up.
Yeah. Cath?
Yeah, my 2 was, the first one was that I still think there's power in having your own website. And it's the only channel that you can completely control. So you have a degree of being able to control the narrative of the conversation that you have. And my second one was the importance of accessibility and inclusivity for your branding going forward.
Awesome. A funny story is, the first video I ever did had a mistake in it. And you came along so I was asked to speak for Startup Grind with Google, and Cath, you came along to that. And the very first video I did was saying I was speaking for Google Startup Grind, and it was in November 2018. And I was already thinking about 2019 and all my calendar things while I was doing the video. Brain goes 100 miles an hour, right? So I put the date in the video as November 2019, and I put it live, and then you can't replace the videos once they go live on some of the social media, right? Yeah. And I went, oh, but you know what? No one noticed it. No one even noticed it had a mistake. I actually had to ask people later on, did they see the mistake? And then a couple of people found it, but it was amazing. So, that was my first video. It went up live with an error, and it still did its job. It still achieved what I wanted it to achieve, the objective of what I wanted to do. And I'm not sure how many people saw it, 100, 200 people. It wasn't that many, right? But it achieved the goal. And so don't get too strung up on being an Oscar winner, and just deliver your message and just go for it, like Rob said, with the phone. And it went on my website, like Cath said, and it's evergreen content. So eventually by 2019, it was relevant, right? And now it's old news. It's like several years ago. No one even knows the date was wrong. So let's get into some of these questions. But I'll answer Joe from the USA has asked about the pyramid. We will put that in the show notes as well. So I will email that out if Rob wants to share it as a hard copy, as a PDF, so that way it can go out. So we'll send that out to you individually. But here's a good one. The best way to integrate your YouTube post into LinkedIn. And I honestly don't have an opinion of this one, other than apparently it's a no-no. So the question here is awesome. What is the best way to integrate?
I don't think it's a no-no. I don't know what Anthony and Cath's experiences are, but I know, any social media platform wants to keep you on their platform. So when you think about that in terms of how the algorithm might treat putting an external link like a YouTube link in a post, you may not get the organic reach that you might otherwise get if you're doing other native video in video's case on LinkedIn, which would be video that you actually upload or record directly on LinkedIn. You may get better reach that way, but I post YouTube video on LinkedIn and it does all right in terms of reach. I'll include the link right in the post. More recently, I've been writing articles and putting the link into articles for the SEO factor, as we've talked about today. So I think that YouTube works well with LinkedIn in my experience anyway.
So, yeah, so one thing that the LinkedIn people, the LinkedIn whiz kids used to say was don't include links in the body of your post, or maybe go and add them later, or put it in the first comment. You'll often see that on LinkedIn. Add the link to the link is in the comment, and that's and that's precisely so as not to drive people away from LinkedIn. But really, LinkedIn is looking at how long people stay on LinkedIn and stay on your post anyway. So it's there is another way around it, which is to make a 30-second snippet. So when you're recording something, you might just create a 30-second snippet, which will actually be native LinkedIn video. You would upload the video on LinkedIn as if it was just like from your laptop straight to LinkedIn, and then say, hey, if you want to watch the longer, webinar, or if you want to watch my longer answer, then check the comment and you drive them across to YouTube. So it's not something that would stress me out, about LinkedIn. But yeah, it's a good question.
Well, I personally just post a video up natively on LinkedIn and leave the YouTube one as the YouTube one. So I do find that I do get penalized if I try to reference YouTube anywhere, but I know some of the guys do it really well. So it's really, each person for their own, but I'm not sure what the best way is. So hopefully that helped whoever that was that asked, certainly in your marketing. So, I mean, it's single use. You just put it in two places rather than centralized it, but you've only made the recording once. If that's the best way to get it on Instagram, well, I'd put it up natively on Instagram, for example. So it's evergreen content on your YouTube anyway. Damien's asked about his Facebook page. Now, he's asked here about his landing page was busy, and what would be the advice on that for marketing? Because obviously Facebook's for his marketing, and he's got a busy Facebook page. I haven't seen it though, but anyone got any suggestions with that?
I haven't looked at the Facebook page, and not too sure if you're talking about your website, Damien, which I did have a super quick squiz at just now. I would say if people are finding it too busy, consider how much, and I haven't looked at it in detail, how you lay out the content. So what you want to know on our website and on social media, people are rarely going to sit down and read everything. They're going to skim it. So I see you use bullet points, but is there a way to better convey the benefits in like an infographic, or like a step-by-step, step 1, step 2, tip 3 to get the benefits and things like that? I think you need to look at it. And this talks a bit about what Rob and Anthony mentioned as well. Like, is it even putting a video? A lot of people these days are putting a video, 1-minute video on their homepage, talking through their unique selling proposition and things like that. So I'd say if people are finding your messaging difficult, you need to strip it back a little bit and think, what's the best way that I can convey it? And maybe video or infographics or, bullet points, a diagram is a better way to convey the benefits, as opposed to expecting everyone to sit and read. I can see that you sort of seem to target the hospitality industry, notorious for not having time to even breathe. So you want to be able to get your message to them really quickly.
Yeah, good point.
Can
also, one other thing there is, just because some people say it, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Don't take negative feedback as the only feedback. If you're achieving your objective, well, so be it. If you're getting that feedback and not achieving your objective, well, that's different. But if you're achieving your objective and someone says, oh, but it's too busy for me, you're always going to get someone want to give some feedback. So it depends on your results you're getting, Damien, at the same time. So don't take the sum as everyone. Obviously, smoke normally means there's a fire. So, take it on board as feedback. But we'll continue on to the next one. So hopefully that helps. If not, maybe reach out to Cath later on. She can help you out. That's definitely her field. Linda, what is a dedicated sitemap?
Yeah, so I think Linda here is talking about when I said a dedicated image sitemap. So in general, a website is made up of pages and posts, but it's also made up of images and other bits and pieces. So it's actually getting pretty techie. It's basically ensuring that all your images are found in the image search. So that you really need a website developer to be able to do it, or do a lot of YouTubing to discover how to do it yourself. It's getting into pretty tech territory, sitemaps. A lot of things like Yoast in WordPress can do it for you if you use a plugin. But yeah, if you're not too sure what it is, I would say maybe chat to your web developer.
It's actually creating a map for the search engines to follow or people to follow. And there's doing it the right way definitely makes a big difference, and having someone who knows what they're doing to help you, even though it's not hard, so if you do it right, it adds a lot of value to your site. So well done. Another one, what do you recommend for video editing and subtitles? Anthony did give a really good tip for that. I thought that was awesome. In fact, I learned that one off Anthony's video myself. I went, wow, I could do that. That's going to save me so much time. So that was Anthony's tip about the fact that YouTube automatically gives you subtitles, and you go get that big block of text, and there's my blog and everything. So it was unreal.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, you've got to walk before you can run. You've pretty much got to, you know, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly, and so get it up there first. And then you can worry later on, especially with shorter videos. It's easier to do the subtitles so that you're not spending the whole day kind of retyping things. There are some paid services such as rev.com, which does, I understand, a good service. There are, much more elaborate and beautiful subtitles. But initially, really the big focus is going to be just getting your content up there in the first place, and then you're tweaking as you go, and then hopefully you can then go back and revisit some of those things. So yeah, I'd recommend that you have a look at my short. I think it's a short video on how I take the raw subtitles from YouTube, which are pretty decent. And then I'll put them into a Google Doc and tidy them up, and then put them back there. And it's a fast enough process for me.
Any other final words?
Yeah. Okay. So the big thing that we really want to just highlight for Damien's question and Joe's question is that with all marketing, you're really tailoring it for a particular audience. And really trying to be specific for them and for their needs and for their wants. And don't worry about trying to reach out to everybody, because everybody's not your market. Everybody's nobody, right? Yeah.
Put yourself in the audience's shoes is what I'll say quite often.
Well, Joe did ask, so can you keep referencing the videos you make?
I'm sorry. So yes, you can keep referencing the videos you make at different times. Yeah, absolutely. It's evergreen content. Whether you would share the same video across all different platforms, that may be less valuable, but being able to share snippets, and certainly going back and saying, as I mentioned in that other video, you can find a link to it. Yeah, at the end of this video. Yeah, you certainly do that. Because
that video I spoke about earlier with the mistake in it from 2018. I still refer people to that now. Oh, can you tell me a bit more about your story? Oh, well, there's a good video on it. It goes for about 45 minutes, and people watch it. And so, it is evergreen content. Do you keep referencing it? 100%. I say, Joe. I mean, it's perfect time duplication of your marketing. So, although we do get into a bit of a sales thing. So if you're fobbing people off and you've actually managed to do some marketing where people come and talk to you, well, now it's maybe time to have a proper conversation instead of sending them back to your website or sending them back to your videos. That's our next session. We're going to talk about sales and what to do next. When someone gets out of that cold zone into your warm zone, you want to have a conversation with them now about what you actually do in your products and services. So we'll get to that second, though. We'll get into the sales part. But this was all about marketing. So definitely, one thing Anthony hasn't said today is not only has he got some great marketing out of his YouTube, he's also created another stream of income. And you always need multiple streams of income. So Anthony's evergreen content over the years has now actually turned into an extra stream of income, which is perfect. He's already done the work once, and now he's getting paid for it. And like he said, stuff he's done 9 months ago, 18 months ago, it's actually working for him now. Yeah, and with Rob, with that pyramid, and think of your time constraints, your 60 seconds, 100%. It's a reverse pyramid. Hadn't thought of that. That was excellent. So can't wait to share that. And you're right, Cath, putting it all back to your own website. It's the one thing that you can control. And we speak about evergreen content. Well, it's there. It's yours. You can control that regardless of what else happens. And once people do get to your website, they're at that generally at that last phase, they really want to know who you are. So they've seen all this stuff somewhere, whether it's your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, some conference you've attended or like this, but then they go to your website and say, well, what do you really do? You know, I really want to know who you are and what you do. So, and that's all marketing, right? That's all brand awareness. It's all marketing. It's getting your voice out there, and it all works. We know that. So that was some awesome tips. So the next session is about sales. So we're going to get into that one. We will log out of this one in a minute or two and reset and recalibrate for the next one. Finish this recording. All the Zoom links are the same. So if you're coming along to the sales one, it's going to be awesome. So we've got 3 Unreal speakers on that one as well. But you can go back into System 1357 and watch some of the videos, or go back and look at everyone's profiles from here and follow their links to their YouTube channels or their websites as well, and go find out what everyone does and really dive into their tips deeper. So follow all the partners that are speaking today by all means, and reach out to them if you need a hand. You know, with all this modern world now, we know we can Zoom everyone everywhere. So it's easy for people to reach out and connect with everyone around the world. But that's about it for now. That's our marketing session. We're right on time, so that's excellent. Well done for the first panel. It was going to be an experiment today, see if we could keep on time. We've had some good interaction from people. I would say session 1's been a huge success. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. This was great.
It was all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we'll wrap up on this one. We'll log back in a few minutes' time and get ready to start for the next session around sales and get everyone's mics and everything going. So well done, everyone. And we'll see you all at the next one.
See you later.
Thanks all.